Hello, I'm Paul Arthur. This is Bridge City News. Here's a look at some of the top stories we've been following. Concerns for air travelers after airports across Canada receive bomb threats. Plus, the Alberta Prosperity Project unveils its fiscal breakdown of the costs and financial benefits of leaving Canada. And a 28-year-old Liverpool soccer star and his brother are killed in a tragic car crash.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News.
Thanks for joining us. Airports are returning to normal operations after Canada's Air Traffic Control Service said 6 airports received bomb threats today. NAV Canada says the threats affected airports in Ottawa, Montreal, Edmonton, Winnipeg, Calgary, and Vancouver.
We're at the Ottawa airport. There's a handful of people here stuck waiting, but really it's not that busy at this point this morning. Like a couple dozen people on this side of security anyway. NAV Canada said they got bomb threats at 6 of their facilities. NAV Canada, of course, runs air traffic controlling for the country. That includes here in Ottawa, Montreal, Winnipeg, I believe Edmonton and Calgary as well. And yeah, this ground flights to a halt in those 6 airports for a decent chunk of the morning. So it does seem that flights are going to be taking off again here in Ottawa shortly. But there are people stuck waiting around that had flights canceled and they don't know what's up with their travel plans now. So just kind of stuck waiting to hear more from the airlines. I talked to one fellow who was supposed to be heading back to Vancouver today. His flight just got canceled. So he's stuck here just playing with a Rubik's Cube when I first walked up to him, just killing time until he heard what's actually going to happen with this flight. I talked to another gentleman, came up from South Carolina to visit some friends and take in Canada Day. But now he's saying, well, the country doesn't want me to leave now because his initial flight, which would have gotten out before the threats went out, it got delayed, then canceled. And now he's just actually currently just, chilling out and lying on a bench not far from me right now as he waits to hear how he's going to get back home to South Carolina because his connecting flight also canceled because of this.
I doing my usual late arrival, then got some food. I went to check in, and then between checking in and getting the security gate, they told me my flight was canceled, no info, and that was it. And then I had to figure it out. I'm not worried about it. I feel like, these things are almost never real. I guess security, the extra juice is worth the squeeze if maybe it's a real thing. But yeah, I just got to get someone to pick me up from the airport now, basically.
An Ottawa airport spokesperson says it's investigating alongside city police. Travelers are being advised to check the status of their flight before heading to the airport, as there have been reports of delays and cancellations. U.S. House Republicans have helped President Donald Trump's $4.5 trillion tax breaks and spending cuts bill get final approval.
The yeas are 218, the nays are 214. The motion is adopted.
We had a tough 4 years before this last election cycle. We were in deep trouble. And we knew that if we won, and we believed we would, we knew that if we got unified government, we'd have to quite literally fix every area of public policy. Everything was an absolute disaster under the Biden-Harris radical, woke, progressive Democrat regime. And we took the best effort that we could in one big, beautiful bill to fix as much of it as we could. And I am so grateful to God that we got that done as we did.
The bill commits $350 billion to national security and Trump's deportation agenda, while cutting $1.2 trillion from Medicaid, health care, and food stamps. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office estimates it will add $3.3 trillion to the deficit over the next decade, while nearly 12 million more people will go without health coverage. Trump is expected to sign the bill tomorrow. Today in Calgary, the pro-separation Alberta Prosperity Project released what it calls a costed fiscal plan for an independent Alberta. The 45-page document called The Value of Freedom explains how Alberta could structure itself as an independent nation. The draft says by not sending $68 to $75 billion in annual federal tax revenues to Ottawa, and after accounting for current federal transfers, Alberta would see a net gain of $44 to $47 billion.
This document has been drafted and prepared with an extremely conservative view and extremely conservative estimates as to the economic projections contained in this document. We do not take into account the massive economic growth within the body of this document, the massive economic growth that will follow Alberta independence the minute Alberta declares itself independent. Normal businesses that don't thrive on government subsidies by building giant carbon-sucking machines, normal businesses thrive in a low-tax, low-regulatory environment. This document sets out the framework for one of the lowest taxed, lowest regulated business environments in North America. Business will flock to Alberta, and that business will make the projections in this document seem completely out of date in terms of how low these projections are and how much we've underestimated the fiscal capacity of a future Alberta.
The document contends that once Alberta is free from current federal government restrictions, oil production would more than double to 9.5 million barrels per day by 2045. The plan includes a new Alberta dollar currency, an Alberta pension plan, and significantly lower taxes. The plan would also triple the amount of money going to Indigenous peoples. While acknowledging there are risks involved, the authors of the fiscal plan predict that Alberta could have annual budget surpluses in the $30 billion range. You can view the plan online at the APP website, albertaprosperityproject.com. A Canadian think tank is calling on the Liberal government to make steeper cuts to program spending and reduce federal transfers to provinces. The C.D. Howe Institute released an analysis today saying it expects Canada's deficit to top $92 billion this fiscal year. It made the prediction given Prime Minister Mark Carney's plan to meet NATO's defense spending target of 2% of GDP. The think tank expects deficit growth to slow after that, but predicts deficits will still average around $78 billion annually over 4 years. 2 coal companies suing Alberta's government over its mining policy flip-flop say they've reached a settlement agreement with the province. Notices published online by Evolve Power and Atrium Coal say the details are confidential and no dollar figures are disclosed. The companies are among 5 suing Alberta, arguing the province expropriated their land after reinstating its long-standing coal policy, and companies were encouraged to buy land for potential mining projects. Alberta lifted the coal policy again earlier this year in favor of a new rule system, but Evolve said at the time that it would have no effect on its lawsuit. The RCMP are admitting they're responsible for a wildfire that has triggered evacuations near Lytton, BC. The Mounties say a wheel fell off an RCMP trailer Tuesday afternoon on Highway 12, about 250 kilometers northeast of Vancouver. The Mounties call it a tremendously unfortunate equipment failure. RCMP say an officer tried to put out the blaze with a fire extinguisher but was unsuccessful. The wildfire began a day after the 4th anniversary of a blaze that destroyed most of the village of Lytton. A Lethbridge woman was sentenced Wednesday for criminal negligence after her 13-year-old son was found dead near Mayor McGrath Drive back on December 26th. The boy overdosed after he and his mother had taken drugs together on Christmas evening in a Southside home. A man in the home attempted life-saving measures and a hang-up 911 call was made. The mother then tried to hide the boy and lied about his whereabouts to EMS to avoid arrest. Police say the mother and child left the home to a nearby business, with video surveillance showing that the two spent the night on the street and the boy never moved from the ground. No paramedics were called until the mother reported that her son was deceased. 39-year-old Blanche Isabel Irene Fick was sentenced at the Lethbridge courthouse to 900 days in prison. A separate charge of failing to provide the necessaries of life was withdrawn. Alert Medicine Hat's organized crime team has made a seizure of drugs with an estimated street value of more than $250,000. Alert says the seizure netted more than 1,000 grams of cocaine and 800 grams of fentanyl, along with smaller amounts of methamphetamine and cash proceeds of crime. Some of the drugs were seized from a home in the Flats neighborhood back on June 13th. 44-year-old Sean Bowers of Medicine Hat is facing a list of charges, including drug trafficking, possession of drugs for the purpose of trafficking, and possession of a prohibited weapon. Police have also charged 38-year-old Robert Jones and 35-year-old Sonia Bays, both of Medicine Hat, with 1 count each of possession of drugs for the purpose of trafficking. Bowers remains in custody, while Jones and Bays have been released. The search of a home and a vehicle last week in Crow's Nest Pass has led to a seizure of weapons and drugs and left 2 people facing charges. Police say the search last Friday of a residence on Tecumseh Drive led to the seizure of 7 firearms, 1 of which was stolen. Police also seized a stolen vehicle, drugs, and a large quantity of stolen lottery tickets. 48-year-old Blair Mielke of Crow's Nest Pass is facing a list of weapons and drug charges. 48-year-old Terry Ann Smith, also of Crow's Nest Pass, has been charged with possession of property obtained by crime. Social aid is always important, especially when it also promotes education. For the 8th consecutive year, My City Care Lethbridge launched its annual Stuff the Bus campaign, in which donations of new school supplies go directly to students in Lethbridge and surrounding areas. The initiative, which supports students from kindergarten through grade 12, hopes to raise supplies for approximately 2,000 students by 2025. Jade Wharf, director of My City Care Lethbridge, tells us more.
So you can register at mycitycare.ca, and then we track how many kids are in each grade. So we just get their basic information, find out if it's boys or girls and what grade they're in. Kindergarten kids are getting kindergarten backpacks and that we have the right supplies. High school students just need different things, more expensive calculators. YMCA, the day of the festival is August 20th and My City Care is August 21st. So when they register online, they can choose to pick up at the festival on the west side or the north side. We have over 25 agencies coming this year, so they will help families get plugged in where they need to. So registration, it will run right up until the week before the event. We partner through Ready, Set, Go, and Ready, Set, Go is actually the partnership with the YMCA, both school boards and both food banks, and the United Way.
Although donations are accepted throughout the year, July and August are the months where the highest number of donations are expected. The City of Lethbridge will be working on a few road projects this week that will involve partial closures to key roads. Crews will be doing maintenance on a pedestrian tunnel that stretches underneath University Drive between Edgewood Boulevard West and Gary Drive, Heritage Boulevard West. Commuters can expect varying single-lane closures while maintaining two-way traffic. Railway crossing work is also taking place at 2nd Avenue North that will close the road between 28th and 31st Street. But eastbound access onto 2nd Avenue from 30th Street will be maintained for those turning in from the Crow's Nest Highway. Additionally, the southbound lane on 23rd Street North between Park Meadows Boulevard and Meadowlark Boulevard is closed for road work. All 3 projects are expected to wrap up by Friday, July 4th. The 113th annual Calgary Stampede officially opens its doors on Friday as the greatest outdoor show on earth promises to feature some of the biggest entertainment attractions for the next 10 days. The Stampede generates hundreds of millions of dollars to the province every year, with a year-round economic benefit of $540 million to Alberta. Over 1,477,000 people attended last year's event. And this year, the communications manager for the Stampede says visitors can expect much of the same familiar favorites alongside some new and expanded attractions.
So this year is like every other. We've got the rodeo, the chuck wagons, the midway, the food, like all your classic favorites are here. And then also this year is the 2nd year. We've got the brand new BMO Center. And so there's loads of exciting things happening in there. In terms of new, for the rodeo this year, we've got ladies breakaway roping has been added to the rodeo. That's the first event added to the rodeo since 1979. So we're all really, really excited for that event this year. We've got the 4 stages. We've of course got Shania Twain, who is parade marshal tomorrow. So going to be riding her horse through the streets of Calgary. and then playing a show at the Saddle Dome the next night. So that's really exciting. And then, yeah, we've got Coca-Cola stage. It's got an amazing lineup of artists. The Big Four Roadhouse is back with equally great artists. And of course, National North, the original country music tent is back. For me, it's really exciting just to see how the city of Calgary embraces the Stampede. You know, it's like there's pancake breakfasts all over the city. And so I think it's a great opportunity to come down and sort of really experience that hospitality that we're known for. There's just so much going on. So I really would encourage everybody to download our app that you can get on the App Store and to visit calgarystampede.com. There's an awesome schedule on there that sort of lays out what's happening every single day. So I would suggest going there.
The Calgary Stampede Parade tours through downtown Calgary at 9 a.m. tomorrow, with the 10-day festival running until next Sunday, July 13th. The soccer world is in a state of mourning after news of the death of Liverpool player Diogo Jota and his brother Andre Silva. We get details in this report from the Associated Press.
The 28-year-old who played for Liverpool and his brother Andre Silva, both Portuguese players, were killed in a car accident in Spain. Their car went off the road near the northwestern city of Zamora. These images show the aftermath of the crash, with brake marks leading toward torn-apart guardrails. Police are investigating. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer called the news devastating.
There are millions of Liverpool fans, but also football fans and non-fans, who will also be shocked by this. I think Liverpool Football Club have just put a statement out, as I understand it, but it is devastating, and it is really important that we bear in mind just how difficult a period this will be for his friends and for his family.
Tributes were paid outside Liverpool's Anfield Stadium by fans stricken by the news.
The way he played football with a smile on his face all the time, he was the epitome of enjoying what you do every time he went out on the pitch.
They always dream of winning what they want to win. They want to win everything, and he was one of the players that wanted to win everything.
Jota's death came during his summer break, just weeks after he married his partner, following a long season where he helped Liverpool win the Premier League title. Sporting stars from across the world have been paying their tributes, with NBA star LeBron James and tennis legend Rafael Nadal both offering condolences. Portugal captain Cristiano Ronaldo simply said it doesn't make any sense. Diogo Jota is survived by his wife and his 3 children.
The Southern Alberta Ethnic Association brings to life one of the most anticipated cultural celebrations for the Latino community and culture lovers, Latin Fest 2025. A celebration of roots, identity, and joy that highlights the best Latin traditions in the heart of Lethbridge. Our BCN's Heidi Echevarria, who also belongs to this culture, shares the details.
Latin Fest is our attempt to showcase the culture of our Latino members.
Since 1 p.m. this Saturday, July 5th, Gall Gardens will be filled with Latin flavor, music, and tradition.
We hope to not only showcase their culture, but provide a learning experience for the community to come together and inspire themselves and learn from these cultures.
Latin Fest 2025 will feature a dynamic lineup of live performances featuring local and regional Latin artists.
So we also have different children's activities. There will be bouncy castles, face paintings, and the Latino game for kids, which is piñatas. So it will be a fun day for everyone to come and enjoy. So Lethbridge has a very big Latin community. They reflect in our membership. I think it is one of our responsibilities to showcase Latinos, their culture, their heritage, their stories, who they are, where they come from. Last year we moved to the Gall Gardens. We had over 2,000 people attend the festival. This year we want to make it bigger and better.
Más que una celebración, Latin Fest invita a descubrir, conectar y celebrar lo que nos une como sociedad multicultural, buscando compartir una nueva apreciación de la riqueza y diversidad de la cultura latina en Lethbridge. More than a celebration, Latin Fest invites to discover, connect, and celebrate what unites us as a multicultural society, seeking to showcase and share a new appreciation for the richness and diversity of Latin culture in Lethbridge. For Bridge City News, I'm Heidi Echevarria.
Well, it looks like we're going to get a bit of relief from the heat over the next couple of days before cranking it right back up again next week. The full forecast is coming right up.
Our 7-day forecast has us with a high of 29 for today with sunny skies. Tomorrow we'll have a high of 24, also with sunny skies. Saturday is looking to have a chance of rain with a high of 14. Things will heat up again on Sunday though with a high of 25 and sunny skies. Monday will have a high of 28, Tuesday will have a high of 33, and Wednesday is projected to get a high of 35. All those days having chance of sun. Today's almanac has us with an average high of 25 for today, with an average low of 10. The record high on this day was set back in 1924 with 34, and the record low in 1979 was 0. The sun rose at 5:29 a.m. today and set at 9:42 p.m. Our national forecast has Vancouver, Victoria, and Calgary with sunny skies and highs of 22, and Edmonton will have a high of 21 with sunny skies. The rest of the prairies have Saskatoon with a high of 23 and sunny skies. Regina has a high of 26 with partly cloudy skies, and Winnipeg will get a high of 32 with partly cloudy skies. Central Canada is going to have a lot of sun, with Toronto and Montreal both getting highs of 26, and Ottawa a high of 25. Finishing off our national forecast, Fredericton, Halifax, and Charlottetown have chances of thunder showers, with Fredericton and Charlottetown getting highs of 23, Halifax a high of 26, and St. John's will get a high of 22 with a chance of showers.
Some big news in the food business. 139-year-old Del Monte Foods, best known for its canned fruits and vegetables, is filing for bankruptcy protection. Food industry expert Sylvain Charlebois from Dalhousie University says while Del Monte is still a big player in the canned foods industry, times have changed.
But unfortunately, the company has failed to adapt to this new reality with food consumption. More and more consumers are drawn towards frozen foods, for example. The frozen aisle has become way more sophisticated than before, and really that brought a lot of traffic away from the center of the store to the freezer aisle, and Del Monte wasn't ready for it. The other issue, of course, are private labels. Del Monte is up against more private labels. Grocers are coming in with more privately labeled products, and they often use these products as loss leaders. So Del Monte was just no longer competitive, and that's why it's in this situation right now.
Del Monte CEO Greg Longstreet admits the company has been impacted by competition from private labels. Charlebois says Del Monte needs to adapt to a new world where fresh food can go from farm to table very quickly. Del Monte has secured new funding that will allow it to stay afloat during the sale process and will keep the company operating as normal as it enters the peak canning season. Court documents show Del Monte's liabilities are somewhere between $1 and $10 billion. A new survey suggests the share of federal public servants saying they have confidence in their bosses has fallen in recent years. The 2024 Public Service Employees Survey says only 55% of public servants have confidence in the senior management of their department or agency. This compares with 64% of public servants who expressed confidence in 2022 and 68% in 2020. The survey tracks federal government employees' opinions about their workplace, asking questions about topics like discrimination and harassment, stress, and compensation. Now, here's a look at today's markets.
The TSX was up 164 points on the day to finish at 27,034. The Dow was up 344 points to 44,828. The S&P 500 was up 51 to 6279. And the Nasdaq was up 207 points to finish at 20,601. West Texas Intermediate Oil was down 26 cents to 67.16 US per barrel. Natural gas was down 8 cents to 3.40 US. Gold was down 31.58 to 33.2601 US an ounce. and silver was up 28 cents to $36.84 US an ounce. Feed wheat is at $8.30 per bushel, barley is at $6.49, canola is at $16.31, and corn is at $7.32 per bushel. Live cattle were up $1.60 to $214.05, and feeder cattle were up 48 cents to $309.50, both of which were August contracts. And lean hogs were down $1.68 to $107.98. The Canadian dollar was even over the past 24 hours and currently sits at $73.60 US.
Recapping one of our top stories, airports are returning to normal operations after 6 airports received bomb threats today. NAV Canada says the threats affected airports in Ottawa, Montreal, Edmonton, Winnipeg, Calgary, and Vancouver. Alberta Health has been busy making changes in the continuing care department for our senior population with what they are calling wraparound services. Dr. Saye Zilke, the interim CEO of Assisted Living Alberta, joins us next to tell us more. When you see news happening in your community, be sure to send us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. You can also visit our website or YouTube channel anytime to check out more of our stories and interviews. A Lethbridge-based cardiologist and medical director of Chinook Cardiology is embarking on a new role. Dr. Saye Zilke was recently named the interim CEO of Assisted Living Alberta. The new agency will provide Albertans with what the government calls a comprehensive system of continuing care with a range of wraparound services. Dr. Zilke joins us now to talk about this new role. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Paul. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Yeah, always good to have you with us. You've served in a variety of roles with Alberta Health Services over the years. So what drew you to this role specifically?
I was asked in December to chair the transition committee that was tasked with identifying strategies, pillars, and direction for Assisted Living Alberta as one of the new provincial health agencies. Minister Nixon had asked me to consider that role, and I had said yes because I felt like it was exciting. It is not my subject matter expertise as a cardiologist, but I do have enough interplay or interactions with that sector through my patients that I take care of, and I felt that it was an opportunity to serve. So I stepped in that role in December as a chair of the transition committee for Assisted Living Alberta. And as the organization became a legal entity in April, there was a need for an interim CEO role until one was recruited to the permanent position. So my position evolved or morphed into the interim CEO role, which I have had the pleasure to serve in since April 8th.
Okay. How long do you think it'll take? There's a transition period, so how long do you think you'll be there at the interim role?
So far, I have committed until August, pending a successful recruitment and onboarding of a new permanent CEO.
Okay. All right. Well, Alberta's population, we're certainly aging. When I look in the mirror, I see that, just over 800,000. I'm getting close, Just over 800,000 seniors living in our province, and about 2,500 Albertans turn 65 every month. So by 2046, 1 in 5, 20% of Albertans will be seniors. So with that in mind, what are some of the most pressing needs that Assisted Living Alberta will have to address?
Yeah, there are a few. One of the most important ones is ensuring that we are providing adequate, excellent care for our seniors to age with dignity in the place where they call home, whatever that may be, whatever that may look like, to be able to provide support in that space. Very importantly, right now, unfortunately, about 75% of our seniors enter the continuing care system through admission from acute care. So they are admitted to the hospitals, they are waitlisted for continuing care, and then they're transferred to the continuing care facilities. And there's a delay that is experienced by the patients and the clients while they're waiting for that transfer, which is not ideal. We are taking up acute care beds for someone that needs access to those services, someone who's waiting for colorectal surgery or breast cancer surgery, and on and on. It contributes to the wait times to the emergency department, but also it's not ideal for the client or the patient to be waiting in acute care when they need to be finding a new home. Every day that they spend in acute care is potentially a risk to their health in terms of deconditioning, not getting the services that they need, not to be up and moving, but also, as you can imagine, there's a risk of infection being in acute care as well. So it is our focus and priority to be able to work on creating extra capacity so individuals can move into continuing care quickly and easily, and also working with acute care partners and AHS in shortening the assessment time so patients are not waiting in acute care beds for continuing care facilities.
Yeah, we went through that with my parents. They've since passed on, but yeah, I remember how frustrating that was. You know, they're stuck, you know, like you say, in acute care, and there's just you know, no places available. So definitely something that needs to be addressed for sure. Now, Assisted Living Alberta, newly formed to provide what is being called wraparound services, quote unquote. Can you explain, you know, what exactly is a wraparound service, and how is this going to impact the senior population?
Yeah, for sure. So, the aim and the goal of Assisted Living Alberta is to marry medical services with social services together to provide care for seniors as well as the vulnerable population and the individuals with disability, and to be a one-stop shop for all those services. So, whether that is a senior or their family wanting to access someone's help for moving a fridge, or going into or finding a space in a continuing care or assisted living space. We want to be able to provide that spectrum of care through the use of technology, all embedded in one organization. Because as you have heard the saying, where focus goes, energy flows, and traditionally, this sector has had to compete with other priorities in the healthcare system. So it's really exciting to be able to have our own minister, our own ministry, our own organization, and a vision to be able to truly concentrate on providing a range of services for the seniors in our population, in our community, as well as those individuals and clients in need.
Is there going to be any specific, you mentioned, you know, technology, you know, being used more so for this. Is there any specific kind of technology that's going to be put to use to find the right places for the seniors?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now we are the team is very much hard at work at establishing a portal system, so a digital tool whereby we would be able to see the capacity in the continuing care sector in the system. That is now online as of last week in its early stages in a pilot form. We hope to layer upon that the need and the demand in the system for the continuing care beds. We plan to introduce some of the services that will be provided under ALA so that this portal will become a one-stop shop. So people can access the portal, the users, the care providers, as well as our stakeholders and those that provide the services all under one umbrella.
Okay, yeah. Hopefully it'll be very user-friendly and easy to tap into. Now you were chair of the transition committee. You mentioned that earlier. That was tasked with you know, roundtable discussions with care providers themselves. So, what did you hear from the care providers? And are these consultations something that's going to keep on going down the road?
So it was an incredible opportunity to learn from the subject matter experts in this space. So we had representatives from the different continuing care organizations, from the disability sector, physicians, all come together and provide some direction and input as to what ALA should look like. Very importantly, we also had community and patient representation in the committee as well. We took that information, but we also augmented this information and validated it by doing roundtable and stakeholder engagement, as well as a public survey and surveying as well the AHS staff and interacting with them to be able to get all this feedback all together to provide a direction for this brand new organization to truly provide the best care that we can in this sector, because this is the first time in Alberta that again we've been able to focus on our senior care the way that we are right now, and it's a very exciting opportunity, and we can only get it right by tapping into the expertise of our stakeholders, our partners, our community, our patients and clients and their family.
Right, and is this going to keep on going as well, like down the months ahead and so forth?
Right now we are in the process of wrapping up the first round of engagement that we did, then the input, by having a public facing report that will be hopefully be published in the fall for everyone for individuals to read and digest. And I'm sure we will create further places where people can provide input and direction as we move on through this transition period.
Yeah, I think it's important to always keep that ear, that opportunity for people to speak into the situation as they experience the changes, right? And is there anything really specific that jumps out at you that, is consistently you're hearing back from the various caregivers, this needs to change, that needs to change? Is there anything that's kind of overwhelmingly, yes, this needs to be a priority sort of thing, or?
I think capacity, wait time, the interaction with acute care, waiting in the hospital, not being quite sure who or where to go, not having one direct point of contact, all of that have come up consistently.
Okay. So this redesign of Alberta Health Services into 4 new sectors has certainly created some controversy. Now, the government believes this will address the inefficiencies, but what do you say to the critics who claim this is just the government inching towards more private health care? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so obviously I haven't been part of those decisions. The way that I see it from where I'm standing, again, is that this is our opportunity to be able to provide focus, clarity, precision to the continuing care and seniors care space where it has been lacking in the past. Ontario made a similar change, and the continuing care ministry evolved to be its own standalone ministry, and they have had quite a bit of success by doing so. So from where I'm standing for the work that I have been tasked to do right now, I appreciate being able to have the focus and the exact direction and the support to make it happen. Of course, I come from an acute care background myself as a cardiologist, but when you have the different specialties and the different priorities in the healthcare system around the table, there's a little bit of course, like you're competing for the oxygen in the room. So to be able to carve out something that you can focus on, I find that a really great opportunity to change the system for better.
Right, and of course, I guess, and I don't want to throw you into the political realm here, private healthcare or not private healthcare, but we should probably clarify, and as we're seeing in Ontario as well, this is not citizens paying out of their pocket. You've got to reach into your wallet sort of thing. This is actually still funded by taxpayer dollars, so the government is actually footing the bill on this, correct? So
100%. It
yeah,
has been all of the work that we have been doing has been to ensure that no one is left behind, that we are providing the most excellent care that we can imagine for all members of our community.
you bet. Okay. Well, maybe let's just wrap it up here, I guess, again with, what would you say, Dr. Zielke, is your number one priority in this new interim role?
To be able to communicate the vision of Assisted Living Alberta and who we are, the new organization, to be able to open and keep open the lines of communication and dialogue with our staff that are transitioning over, with our clients and with our stakeholders, be humble, be willing to listen and learn, and try our best to get this right for our people, because we are all in it for that reason.
Yeah, we want to basically make sure that our elderly population is taken care of, that there's enough capacity there, enough room for them to go, with dignity into the next, years of their life and being well cared for. So, yeah. Well, thank you for, all the time you're sinking into this. Appreciate it, Dr. Zielke.
It's been a privilege. Thank you so much, Paul, for your time.
You bet. Dr. Saye Zielke, a Lethbridge cardiologist and the medical director of Chinook Cardiology, as well as the interim CEO of Assisted Living Alberta.
Since 2015, the federal government has paid nearly $18 billion settling an increasing number of specific claims by First Nations, including more than $7 billion last year alone. This, according to a new study released by the Fraser Institute, which is an independent, nonpartisan Canadian public think tank. So the author of this study, which is called Specific Claims and Out of Control Program, joins us today. His name is Dr. Tom Flanagan. He is Professor Emeritus of Political Science and Distinguished Fellow at the School of Public Policy at the University of Calgary. Dr. Flanagan, great to have you with us today. Welcome.
Yeah, nice to be here.
Okay, so Dr. Flanagan, $18 billion, that is a lot of money. First of all, can you explain what the term specific claims actually means?
Yeah, it's a technical term in the field of First Nations claims. There's two kinds of claims. One is called a comprehensive claim, and that's put forward by First Nations who have never had the benefit of a treaty. So their comprehensive claims have been settled in the North, Yukon, Northwest Territories, by both Indians and Inuit. British Columbia, there are still many of them under negotiation, possibly in Eastern Canada at some point. Then specific claims arise where treaties have already been signed, and they are allegations that the treaty hasn't been properly fulfilled, or that provisions of the Indian Act haven't been followed. So that's why they call them specific. They're much narrower in character. It's not a request for some big deal overall. It's saying, look, you promised to do A, B, and C, but you didn't do it. And so the government of Canada has recognized specific claims in principle since the mid-1970s. And settlements have been taking place all this time, but for the first 40 years or so, the settlements were typically, if I just call them small, but for a few million or possibly tens of millions of dollars in most cases. They didn't add up to more than $100 or $200 million in any given year, usually.
So how does the process work? Once a First Nation presents a claim, who determines whether the claim is valid and who decides what amount of money is actually paid out? Two
departments in Ottawa. There's Department of Services, First Nations, and the other one is Relations with First Nations Governments. And I'm not quoting the exact titles of those governments, but of those departments. But there's within the second department, there is a branch called the Specific Affairs Branch. So a claim is prepared by a First Nation with the aid of researchers and lawyers that they can hire if they want to. They can borrow money from the government to do that if they need to. Then the officials in the Specific Affairs Branch study it and they make a recommendation. It may have to go to the Department of Justice to see if it fits into the right legal category. There is a special court called the Specific Affairs Tribunal. Most claims don't go there, but some do. that court mostly doesn't settle the amount of the award, but it renders an opinion as to whether the claim is justifiable or not.
You mentioned before this dramatic increase in number. Why are we seeing such a dramatic increase in the number of claims and the huge payouts? What's going on?
Specifically, with regard to this program, they started accepting after 2017, they started accepting a certain category of claim, which had been made before but had hardly ever been accepted. There was these are called cows and plows claims. The treaties in Western Canada, the so-called numbered treaties, all contain an agricultural assistance provision. So typically it says that the government, once the Indians signed the treaty and selected their reserves, then the government would send seed grain, would send agricultural implements, in some cases might send cattle to start a herd, would provide an agricultural instructor in some cases. The nature of the benefits depended somewhat on where you were. I mean, like a big beef cattle herd would make sense down in your part of the world around Lethbridge, not so much up in northern Alberta in the forest. So the details would vary, but the basic idea was to help these First Nations become self-sufficient, support themselves, so they wouldn't be dependent on government rations. So the treaties all provided for agricultural assistance. So anyway, the promises were made, and of course, there was no transcontinental railway through Canada until 1885. So things like cattle, you couldn't just put them on a train and send them out here. What they would do is purchase cattle in Montana and drive them up to Alberta, Saskatchewan. Seed grain, you could perhaps send, probably more or less the same deal, purchase it and bring it north. I mean, you have to remember what conditions were like at this time. So anyway, fast forward 100 years, and many of the bands are saying, well, you know, these cows and plows agreements were never properly fulfilled. We didn't get as many cattle as you said you'd give us, or the cattle were too skinny and they all died, or the plows were not of high quality and they would break on our tough prairie sod. And so anyway, prior to 2017, there was only one of these cows and plows claims that had ever been approved, and that was a relatively small one. But the government made a policy decision told its officials to start bringing these forward and approving them. And so that accounts for a very large share of the increase is cows and plows.
Cows and plows. It sounds like it should be a podcast or something.
Yes.
Dr. Flanagan, you say that the specific claims program should be terminated. Why do you feel that way? Is it because there's no end in sight? Do we see this going on for the next 50, 60, 70 years? Is it just costing too much? Are there some that are claims that are debatable that maybe aren't as legitimate? What's your thinking here?
Well, the program now has been in effect for over 50 years. Started in the mid-70s, now we're the year 2025. I think that is enough time for bands to go over their history and to find out if they didn't get enough cows and plows, or another typical category of claims involves the sizing of reserves. There were problems in the early years of getting an accurate count of Indians, because many of them went down to the U.S. where there were still buffalo in Montana in the 1870s and 80s. So some of the Indians would be down there hunting the last buffalo. Then there were issues about what they call cutoffs from reserves. You have to remember, this was a period in the late 19th century when Indian populations in Western Canada were decreasing, mainly from disease. And many of the reserves that had been allocated now appeared to be larger than necessary. So there were cutoffs of land for, in some cases, just to be sold to homesteaders, in other cases for building railways, reservoirs, roads, improvements of various kinds. There was a process under the Indian Act for cutoffs, but claims are made that the process wasn't always followed carefully. So you can, I'm not saying none of these claims are justified. I think probably some of them are. Hundreds of them have been accepted. But it doesn't make sense to me that after 50 years, you would be getting more and more claims accepted. In 50 years, you ought to be able to have gone over the industry, over the records, and find out if you have anything where you think you were shortchanged. I'm not saying none of these claims are justified. Officials have agreed with them, and that's okay, fine. But I just said, enough is enough. At some point, you should stop raking over the past for grievances and finding more and more grievances and new types of grievances like cows and plows.
Yeah. Realistically, do you think the current government would ever consider terminating the specific claims program? How difficult would that be?
No, realistically, probably not. Most governments usually don't follow my research findings, but no, I think termination would set off a firestorm. But so I'm putting forward a radical, in a government context, radical proposal terminating. But if I can get officials' attention that way, there are things they can do to reduce the flood of payouts. One of the factors behind the scenes is another thing that happened in the Trudeau government. If you remember, Jody Wilson-Raybould was Minister of Justice for several years, the first status Indian ever to hold that position. And with the approval of cabinet and the Prime Minister, she issued a directive that lawyers in the Department of Justice should not go to the mat litigating with Indian claims, that they should negotiate rather than litigate. Sounded good, but the result has been that the taxpayer is getting hosed. Lawyers, they would love to litigate. I mean, that's what they're trained to do, but they're handicapped. They're told they can't fight properly. And so claims, and that's another reason why more claims are being accepted, because the lawyers who deal with these in the Department of Justice, who review them all, have been told to play softball here. So behind the scenes, there are things that the government could do to reduce the number of claims that are accepted, reduce the size of payouts. I mean, just to give you one more example, the payout on cows and plows. So you didn't get enough cows in 1878. Well, that's sad. But what they're doing, they take the value of cows in 1878, and then they apply the principle of compound interest till we're up into 2025. So $1,000 worth of cattle are now worth $500 million. And these cows and plows settlements are big. Many of them are several hundred millions worth of dollars. And yeah, it's a mathematical exercise. And it's that kind of approach is used in industry, but it's not used over decades and centuries. It's used where, if you're a supplier, you're building something and your supplier doesn't send you the right ingredients, the right tools or whatever, you can say, okay, from the time it should have come, we get that plus interest. But that's, 5 to 10 years, let's say. Here we're going 50, 100, 150 years. Compound interest makes these settlements enormous.
Exactly. We are out of time here, Dr. Flanagan, but thanks so much for being with us today.
Well, once again, I had too much to say, but that's why.
It's a big topic, yes. And you wrote your research on it. You got a lot to say. But great to have you with us. Dr. Tom Flanagan is a senior fellow with the Fraser Institute and author of the study, Specific Claims and Out of Control Program.
Okay. Bye-bye.
I'm Jeanette Roching on behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News. Thanks so much for watching.